Hello everybody, welcome back. I am Cincinnati-based illustrator John McCoy, and you're watching part 16 of Learning to Draw with Andrew Loomis's Fun with a Pencil. Right now we're going to put our little John McCoy art stamp here. Bingo, all right. And this is another large milestone in our journey through Fun with a Pencil because we are embarking on the human body as a drawing, as we're drawing the entire body now. Here you can see that Mr. Blook is bringing us a case of freshly shipped bodies for Fun with a Pencil. Oh boy, now the fun really starts. This guy fell, oops. So you can see he's constructing them. Now let's talk a little bit about his theory behind this. These drawings he's done are samples of how we drew the human body when we were kids. And he is in agreement with what I'm in agreement about, and a lot of famous artists are in agreement about, which is that when we are kids, we're in touch with something, we do something better, and as we grow, it's taken out of us in a way by society, and it takes away that spark of originality. And he talks about, let me see if I can find it here. When you were a very little boy or girl, your brain children probably looked like these. If they did, you had a great deal of undeveloped talent, and if you had not been drawing ever since, it's a real shame. But I just want to say, if you guys are in that boat, if you've drawn when you were a kid, like many of us have, and you've come to this channel to learn the art of drawing again, I'm really proud of you, and I'm happy to help you in your journey of learning to draw. And you've already drawn, and you can rediscover that spark in this series. You can go back and watch from the beginning. If you haven't, welcome back. We're going to get started with how we draw the figure, the entire figure. We've been drawing heads up until this point, but now here we go. We're going to draw the whole body. We're going to talk about that, how that happens. When the little youngster starts to draw, he instinctively does a better job than he does later on. He goes to essentials, a crude representation of the bulk without the detail. Soon he forgets the body and starts drawing buttons and clothes with a face on them. The result, he gets discouraged and transfers his attention to other things. And he says, numbers 1 and 2 of the marginal drawings have great possibility. 3 and 4, there's still hope. And 5 verges on those awful drawings in public places. Basically, there's an originality in when kids draw, and they get kind of conditioned or taught to draw in a certain way that takes away the raw human ingrained instinctive ability to draw. And so we're going to get back to that. So now we're going to construct this. This is the way he's saying as a kid he drew it like this. This is, as he will be, the constructed human form following the Loomis method. So with that, I'm going to read a little bit about it and draw at the same time. 3B. So here we go. Let's just get this lined up here in the right orientation. We start with something very much like 1 and 2. For want of a better name, we shall call him Doohinkus. All we need to do is add some sort of box for a pelvis, some pads for hands and feet, some balls at the joints, and a straight line across for shoulders. We thus give him the following characteristics. Head is a ball, Chest is a ball. Pelvis is a box slanted out at back and in at the sides. So the head is a ball. The chest is a ball, slightly smaller. And the pelvis is a box slanted out at back and in at the sides. So he's talking about where does the slanting happens at the bottom. So let me draw this. If the character was from the side, the pelvis would be something like this. The slanting happens at the bottom. Same as if we draw it from the front. The pelvis slants inward at the sides, but where is it happening? At the bottom. I had to reread the sentence for a little bit because it was a little confusing to me. But basically, he's saying he has a particular orientation in mind as far as how the pelvis is slanting. But you'll see that more as we draw and see on the later pages when we get into more of these poses and so forth of all the different ways that we draw, that you can see the side view versus the front view. So let's get back to what we were talking about, where this being a head is a ball, chest is a ball, pelvis is a box. I'm going to draw from this one, a box. So what is a box? A box is like this, but where does it slant? In at the sides. If we are out at back and in at the sides, so it's slanting in like so, which becomes this shape. Now, the legs, the spine does not go through the chest ball, which is this one, but around the back of it. So what would it look like if it went through it? It'd be kind of like our little axis going through a sphere. Like so. But if it goes, so he says, the spine does not go through the chest ball, which is an example over here of the chest ball. If it was to go through, that would be the spine going through. But instead, but around the back of it. So let's redraw this little sphere. I'm just making my point here. What would it look like if the spine went around the back and not through it? It would be coming down here and it would curve back and it'd be going behind here and then coming out again. Or if we rotated that example here around to the side view, the same thing would happen. This is a side view where the spine wraps around the back. Exaggerated, but that makes a lot more sense when I can draw and show you what is actually happening. So not through the chest ball. This is the chest ball. And this is the head. And this is the pelvis here. Like so. Like so. Okay. Now we continue. Let's read on what he says, because this page is very important. Let's read through this very carefully. Okay. The legs are not straight, but curve in to the knees and out towards the feet. You can see that in this drawing right here. So let's just replicate this. He's got the ball and joint socket of the hip bone coming out of the pelvis like so. And he says the legs are not straight, but curve into the knees and out towards the foot. Sometimes it's good to picture what he's saying and make a reference for yourself of what it looks like that's incorrect. Just right here on the side, I'm going to do that so we can say what would it look like if the legs were straight, like he's saying they're not. They would go straight down like that. The knees right here. He's saying that's not the case. So make that distinction in your mind. It'll help you in the future as you understand what he's saying, because he's making these distinctions here on purpose, so that you know, remember, legs don't go straight down, they curve. And you can see this in yourself if you look in the mirror, or if you see when people are walking, or you can see it in Disney characters or Pixar characters or any animated, Blue Sky Studios, let's not focus on the big ones. Any animated studios, when they draw people, oftentimes you have this exaggerated upside down triangle type character where the little feet go down in an angle, and of course they curve out at the bottom. This is to support the human body. This happens in nature. It's exaggerated, of course, in those animated videos, in those movies. Now let's draw it out here on this larger model. Remember, head, chest ball, pelvis. So the legs are not straight, remember, not like this, but curve in to the knees and out towards the foot like you see here. So they go down, curving in. You're down, curving in on both sides. And you've got the knees. And then in nature, if these continued on this curve, this would be like a pencil shape. And if you stuck it down here, it would fall over. So instead, while the hips, the upper leg curves inward, the lower part of your leg below the knee curves outward toward the feet, just ever so slightly. So it may seem weird to you at first, but you will understand that this is how nature works, and this curve actually does happen. People are built this way. Okay. Curve is into the knees and out towards the foot. Forearm is slightly curved. So you'll notice, if we kind of just copy what he's drawn, this is the chest ball. Let's just draw a little line for the shoulders. And then here's the actual top of the shoulders. You will notice, as we're replicating this character, that the top of the arm, let me erase this little thing because it's getting in the way of my drawing. I hardly ever use the eraser because it's mostly it encourages you to be more confident if you don't use it. But every now and then you should use it because it's designed for something. Okay, now we draw this arm. What I was going to say is you'll notice that the top bone of the arm is relatively straight. It has a straight appearance. And that is noted in this description of how to draw this character by Andrew Loomis himself. That's the worst part about erasing things. All right. So the forearm is slightly curved. The forearm is this part of the arm, not the top. The forearm, you will see, like this, has a slight bow to it. Here's the elbow. And it can be exaggerated if you choose. That has a curve to it, whereas this bone, not so much. Now we move on. Chest ball is divided by a line through the middle and flaring lines at the bottom like a Y upside down. You can see that upside down Y here. If we flip that around, it'd be a Y, and we will show that. So this line indicates the symmetry of the spine, since we're looking at this character relatively straight on. And now the upside down Y, following his drawing. So there we've got that upside down Y. What does this indicate to you? Well, it looks a lot like the rib cage. People's rib cage, you have the sternum here, and then you have the bottom of the ribs, which do follow this angle. Okay. The reason for the curve on the bones is that they thus become springy and shock absorbing. That's kind of like what I was saying. When a three-dimensional character stands and has weight, you can see it happen with my fingers because I'm slightly double jointed. They curve when they get pressed in, and that is a natural design, not so much in my fingers, but it looks like that. But in the legs, these things become springy. They have a slight bend to them and give to them, and they're not rigid, and the impact is not traveling up the entire leg directly, but they actually have a spring and a curve to them that absorbs the shock of natural movement when you're walking. Okay, biomechanics, basically, is what I was going to say. So they become springy and shock absorbing with this curve in the bones. Without those curves, we would be nervous wrecks before we were in short pants or panties, as the case may be. Okay, so every limb is movable in practically all directions. So we're establishing the framework. It's kind of like this guy, only this is a three-dimensional version that artists use to position the figure. But we have ourselves a drawn blueprint of how to draw the character, and we can move these basically around in any direction as long as the structure does not change, and we'll see that as we unfold with more and more drawings. Okay. The chest ball is fixed to the spine, but the spine bends in all directions. It can also twist or turn. So basically, this chest ball, if you draw it from the back, and you notice the chest ball is like this, you have the spine of the person wrapping around, like he says up here. Remember that. The spine wraps around that. But the spine itself, this ball is fixed to this, like as if it was glued to the spine. But the thing is that the spine can be very flexible, so it can move around in all directions, while this ball... So when you're thinking on how you draw something, you just need to think in terms of, there are rules. I can't move this ball up or down on the spine. Its placement stays the same, even though the spine itself is flexible and can move in all directions. That ball stays the same, stays fixed to the spine in the exact same space, and it creates a range of movement. And that's how we can think, even from the beginning when we were drawing faces, how we can think of the characters in terms of three-dimensional, more than just lines on a piece of paper. This is representing three-dimensional forms, and that's why he says the head is a ball. Why does he say it's the ball? He doesn't say it's a circle, because a circle is a flat shape. So when we think of them in terms of three-dimensional shapes, and we realize how he's very carefully described how each part of the character connects to the other part, for instance, how the spine wraps around the ball, that's extremely important for us to understand the rules that we can't break if we want to represent the figure accurately. And of course, we're starting with more of a cartoony figure, but stay tuned, because in the future we're going to be drawing more realistic characters. Okay. The chest ball is fixed to the spine, but the spine bends in all directions. It can also twist or turn so that there is a wide range of movements possible between spine and pelvis. A very flexible character. The human body is just about the nicest bit of mechanics we have in the world. We can walk, run, jump, climb, stand erect, sit, all without any oiling or burnout spark plugs. Our motor starts and stops once. If we take care of the engine, it will outlast any metal one. Let's go. So let's finish drawing this little guy and call it for this video, because we've spent a significant amount of time understanding the basics and how to construct this figure. And on the next page, we will continue with drawing that character in different angles and also understanding the diversity of the different shapes of bodies that we have. So the head here, I'm going to draw in, is shaped kind of like, very similar to our heads that we've been drawing for the last 15 parts to this series. And the little eyes, nose. He's added, you can see it's like it's a ball, but it's also got the plane added to it because it's not quite a ball shape. The neck, he has not added any volume. We're going to get into that later. And basically, we have the figure drawn out here. The only part we missed was these feet, and I would just say use your eye and see the thickness of those. They're a little less thick than the actual width of this entire chest ball. And they have a little bit of a heel here happening, which means that this shape, which is, what did he say, is a pad, just like the hands are like pads, does extend beyond the actual bottom leg a little bit in this direction, which creates the heel. And now we have the hand, which looks like a mitten in one sense here. He hasn't defined the fingers except for the thumb. And then this one is foreshortened in a way where we're seeing like face on, flat, and this one's foreshortened, it's turned. But there you have it. That is the basic principle of his comic figure, and we are learning the basics of how to draw the full body, which is pretty awesome. And this may look cartoony, but the basis, starting without the focus on hyperrealism, allows us to understand the underlying shapes that we're seeing, the ball here, and understanding in terms of three-dimensionality. As we continue in the next videos, we will get a higher understanding of how these shapes change depending on how this character is moved around in three-dimensional space. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I will be happy to respond as best as I can to help you and to meet you and say hi. How's it going? Tell us from where you're watching, and what do you like most about these videos? What can I do better? And be nice, be respectful to everyone, myself and everyone else in the comments. That's a good community guideline we have here. But I really appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I've released a lot of cool content in the past, and I'm continuing to right now presently with this series, but continue in the future with a lot of cool stuff as well. A lot of my own projects, professional projects like murals I'm creating. You can see videos on that as well. But hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you are in the loop about new videos coming out. And if you haven't, you can go back and watch all of the other parts to this series. That'll be very helpful with laying the foundation, understanding how the face is drawn, up to more realistic faces of both men and women. I've really enjoyed this process, and I'm looking forward to the next video. Until then, happy drawing, and God bless.